Hey everyone, it's Jamie from Independent Street Tarot and Seasons and Ritual, and I'm coming to you late this evening. It's 8:33 p.m. Central Standard Time where I am in New Orleans, and this isn't a video that I was going to make until maybe, I don't know, maybe a couple hours ago. And it's one of those things where you're told you need to make a video, and I kind of argued for a little bit, but I always say I'm too old to argue. So here we are. There's a couple reasons why I came on. First and foremost, this is going to be kind of a political video. So, I lean Democrat, I lean left. So if that's not your thing, feel free not to keep watching the video. At the same time, I have plenty of friends that are Republicans and we get along just fine because, you know, they're not as many as there used to be because of what happened with Donald Trump. So I'll rephrase that. So I had a lot of friends that were Republicans. Um, a lot of them aren't anymore, quite honestly. And we agreed on about 99% of everything. Maybe a couple things. And and so that's kind of one of the reasons of the video. It's coming back to like common sense, who we are as Americans. Today, on the 28th, we had a cazimi, and that is when the sun is conjunct a planet. And so we had a major one, and I really wasn't going to speak on it. I feel like we've had a lot of these coming up lately. And sometimes I don't speak on these things mainly because I think we put too much emphasis on maybe one thing and we forget to look at the nuances or the whispers that are going around, which are a lot of times the most important. I know if I get stressed out and I just focus on one thing, I kind of forget to see the big picture. So, um, astrology is to keep us informed. At the same time, I was thinking about maybe I'd come on tomorrow and talk about it. But here we are today. So, this cazimi happened in Pisces. The Sun and Mercury, um, the Sun and Mercury was it one other thing? Oh, and Saturn, Sun and Mercury and Saturn were all at 9 degrees of Pisces today. So there's a couple things. Pisces is a really big player. We are in Pisces season, the sun is in Pisces, but it was brought to my attention actually the other day when I was listening to Pam Gregory, who is OG astrologer. Um, and she had brought up that when Saturn goes into a sign, it's usually there for about 2.5 years. And when Saturn went into Pisces last year, it only made it to 7 degrees because it did not get very far into Pisces. So Saturn, you know, coming into Pisces to me is ending this that age of Pisces. It's ending all the things that we really got mired in and confused by during this age of Pisces. Narcissists being one of them, addiction getting really bad, just confused, like people presenting exactly who they are to us, and then we would be like, no, I don't think they meant it, and they totally did mean it. But we just wouldn't believe it. So Saturn going into Pisces to me was starting to bring that to light, like giving us that stability that we need to be like, no, that's exactly what's happening. Um, Saturn also rules time. So a lot of times I find myself saying it's time, right? And I mean that because it is time. Like it's time to move forward, it's time to move on. Um, it's time to bring our dreams back into reality, which we can, I believe, with Saturn in Pisces. So Saturn only got to 7 degrees of Pisces. And then she was saying this year, Saturn is going to get all the way to 19 degrees of Pisces. So Saturn's going to start blowing like blowing right through Pisces this year, which is good. So there's going to be a lot of more forward movement in this section of Pisces. So it would be important, and I usually don't say this, but it would be important to know in your natal chart what house Pisces falls in, because that is the house that is going to be getting a lot of reconstruction, if you will, in a good way. And I can already see it in me where it falls in my natal chart. So it was really interesting actually when she said that, and I was like, I'm gonna go check that out. So Pisces is a big player because Saturn is there until 2026, I believe, maybe 2025, but I think they said 2026. This is what happens when I don't check my notes before I come on. So today at 9 degrees of Pisces, we had the Sun, Saturn, and Mercury. And so they say when these cazimis happens, the sun is warming up the spot. It's in the heart. The sun to me represents our solar plexus. It is the I am. The sun is our self-esteem. The sun is how we move forward, right? The sun represents the divine masculine that's in all of us. So today we had Saturn, who represents time, stability, um, the cosmos. Remember, it used to be Aquarius's ancient ruler. Um, Meet up with Mercury. And what's interesting about this is, Mercury is the messenger of the gods, but Mercury also rules Gemini, but it also rules Virgo. And Virgo is the opposite of Pisces. And so we just had this Virgo full moon, which was batshit crazy. I'm just kidding. I keyed. It's just kidding. But it was a strong full moon, right? And so now today we have this meeting at 9 degrees. And Virgo still gets called back into this conversation because its ruler Mercury is there talking to Saturn in Pisces. And so when it's almost like when these cazimis hit, it's like miracles, right? It's like this idea of miracles, warming up something that we couldn't even imagining happening. And I think this is very interesting because today in the United States, the Supreme Court is going to hear on Donald Trump's case, if he gets immunity. And then also Mitch McConnell resigned. And he has been in the Senate for 17 years. And I cannot be happier that he's resigning. And I say this knowing he has a family and loved ones and all those things, but I cannot be happier that he is resigning. So it's this really interesting conversation that is going to be taking place. To me, this is how I'm seeing it, obviously for the next I was going to say 4 months. So we'll say 4 months. About this idea of absolute power coming to an end. And if you do your research on Mitch McConnell, that's how he ruled. That's how he ruled the Senate. It was all about him and absolute power. We all vote the same way. If there's anything that knows what an autocrat does, I think he should raise his hand. And then we have Donald Trump who represents everything that was just awful in the age of Pisces. If you ask me, he's a narcissist. Um, we could just start in there, but also the idea that, the idea with Donald Trump and most narcissists is that, they don't know who they are. They're bullies. They're mean. They really have no backbone. And his entire brand took off, if you will, when a TV producer came in and sold the idea, right? It wasn't truth. And in that age of Pisces that we're coming out of, it was really hard for us for some reason to discern the truth. Lower Pisces is illusion. Lower Pisces is addiction. Lower Pisces is confusion, right? Higher Pisces lets things go to turn over to bring in the new, right? Higher Pisces is the alpha and the omega. Higher Pisces is the end of the zodiac, which brings us to the beginning of the zodiac, So we want to start going towards that higher Pisces energy. And so today we had this conversation with Saturn and Pisces and Mercury, and the sun. And the sun is that divine masculine energy. That sun is everything that we want that divine masculine energy to be. The divine masculine listens to the divine feminine, right? Because we have both within us. That divine masculine moves with the conscious. The divine masculine understands empathy. The divine masculine understands, courage, right? It moves in courage. It moves with the conscious. It moves with empathy. It moves with discernment. And all those traits, if you will, are also part of that divine feminine, empathy, discernment, courage. You could say the same thing about the divine feminine. She does the same. She receives those, right? So that divine feminine within us is receiving, and that then tells the masculine in us how to move. And again, when we try to like break it down, it's really hard. I feel like a robot when it's all should be happening at once. Like again, the greatest thing the patriarchy did was separate us from our divine selves. And now we're coming back with that. And I see that as that conversation today, that cazimi, talking to Saturn. How do I make this doable? How do I make this pliable? Virgo, you are the resolver. We need to resolve this old way of being, this old way of thinking. We need to resolve this confusion, right? Mercury is taking these notes, and Mercury is going to deliver these messages from the gods, right? From Saturn, from the sun. Help us with that with Virgo, bring this in there. And, one of the ways that I think we can do that is just showing up and doing our civic duty. Um, you know, I'm 46 and most people my age had civics class and we understand we all had Schoolhouse Rock, we learned how it made it to Capitol Hill. And it's time for us, I just always say, like, middle of the road normal people to start doing our civic duty, to stand up and go do these things, like get off the computers, get off the Instagram or whatever, check on your neighbor. How you doing? Okay, good. What's going on? Because again, that's what I see happening in my community. The other day I blew out a tire, true story. And so it's getting the tire changed. And this other guy was standing there. He was probably a couple years older than me, dressed nice. And I was like, I bet she's on his way to church because it was Sunday. It was a black guy. And sure and behold, he was on his way to church and he was getting his tire fixed. And we just started chit-chatting, just shooting the shit. And he was making me laugh because he was saying, yeah, I don't know what we do with all the tax money because Louisiana is 50th in the nation with blah, 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 and we were laughing. I mean, it's not funny, but like we were talking about politics a little bit, but it was just like common sense. Like we need common sense. We need to take care of people, like he was obviously with the church. So he was talking about how he goes and, feeds the homeless and does these things. And it was just really quite beautiful and refreshing. And I just want to say there's more people like us out there than there's not. So the rhetoric is going to get very loud when it comes to the patriarchy, because I saw it the other day and I can feel it. It's not good. And then this shit happened today. And so the way we fight the patriarchy, which, and my friend told me this the other day, Sheila, she was like, the patriarchy was just here to teach people how to hate women. And I never thought it in stark contrast or those stark words like that. And I was like, holy shit. But she was right. And it's one of those things where I was like, oh my God. And listen, if you're a man, I'm not, I'm not saying you hate women. But it is important for you and for women to realize that that was the patriarchal story, was just to hate women. Just, and we're dumb, we can't do anything, we need a man, we can't make decisions, all those toxic traits that people would say about women, that were just replicated and told in like stories and the myths, and all of that is coming to an end. And it is because we've moved into this age of Aquarius. It is because we are learning to connect with our divine masculine and feminine in all of us, no matter how you present. We have that in us. And when we start to love both sides of us, that's what grows us up. That's what kills that patriarchal norm. One other thing I wanted to say is, okay, two things, actually more than that. But anyway, so it's important to remember too that Pluto in Aquarius is in different degrees than it's ever been in before. So Pluto is still at 0 degrees of Aquarius, but it's like so many more minutes, right? So you have that happening in Aquarius. Well, today you had that cazimi happening in Pisces, right? Don't forget Mars conjunct Pluto at those new degrees in Aquarius, Venus conjunct Pluto at those new degrees in Aquarius. This is all bringing in new energy. And so things can seem a little bananas, as we like to say. And that's okay. The main thing is that you remember who you are. The main thing is that you remember you have empathy. The main thing is you remember, you are a good listener, or You do. You are a good helper, you open the door, all those things. You are going to go register to vote, right? Because again, the age of Aquarius is about the individual first and then the collective. So you are not alone, right? Lower Aquarius does feel alone. Higher Aquarius is that higher octave of the cosmos. It's freedom, right? Because it knows everyone can work together in the way it needs to work together to get things done. Um, so don't feel lonely. I can't tell you how to feel, but if you start to feel lonely, no, there's more of you like is out there. And if you're like, well, what's the difference? The difference is compassion. Difference between us and hate groups is compassion. The difference between us and them is empathy. The difference between us and them is like we know everybody poops. Okay, that's the difference. Okay, like no one's here or there, right? Um, and the difference is that we know we can show up, and you just saying hello to someone or opening the door, it's all those small things that create this tidal wave. So don't, I mean, you can get freaked out about this whole thing with the Supreme Court, but you keep showing up, maybe don't listen to the news as much, because they're going to be talking about this shit now until it happens. And everyone's an expert. Don't forget, everyone's an expert. Um, but take this time to show up for yourself. Take this time to show up for others. Take this time to ask Saturn, okay, what did you and Mercury talk about? What did you and the sun talk about? Or ask Mercury, hey, what did the sun and Saturn talk about? Because the sun is the divine masculine who is lighting up Pisces right now. And that higher octave is Pisces is the old has to end to bring into the new, right? So, what they say, like, ooh, I'm intrigued. Like, I can't wait to see how this turns out. At the same time, I also know like I got to do my part to like show up as well. Um, I wanted to, the Hermit card is the number 9 card, in the major arcana in the tarot. And the sweet thing about the Hermit is that he always leads by his light, right? And so if you have to take this time, we're still in winter, to stay in your cave, right? Remember who you are, remember what you believe in. And then when you come out, you lead with your light. It's a Merkaba. Use the Merkaba. That's ancient geometry. We used to, I don't know, the royal we, I guess. I use the Merkaba to go through and cleanse people's energies, right? To cleanse out old things, to reconnect, right? To that crystalline grid, that crystalline energy. And so the Hermit is here, right? 9 degrees of Pisces. So if you got to stay in that cave, stay in that cave, right? And when you emerge, you lead with your light, because that's what's going to change your community. That's what's going to change the world. It's always that big, you know, uproar, right? It's always, before, the Wizard of Oz, right? Don't look behind the mirror. And he was making that face scream and all the smoke and everything come up. So no, the patriarchy is dying. And when I said that the patriarchy was here to teach people how to hate women, it's the same thing like when we had to like kind of come to the facts that like, oh, America is racist, and we have to see that, oh shit, these things are out there. And there's some things that I do that are considered racist, right? And it was just like, oh, I gotta come to terms with that. It doesn't make me a shitty person. And it falls with everyone, right? And one of the good things about America was how we kind of all laughed at each other, with each other and at each other, being Italian. Um, we had some really good old Italian jokes, right? But even with our friends, right? And so we could kind of take the piss out of each other, if you would. And it was okay because we loved each other. And at the end of the day, we all know we poop. So and I really do hope we kind of get back to that. But I do want you guys to challenge yourselves to think about, fuck, what am I doing? Um, where I already have these preconceived notions about women. Because when you start bringing that up, whether you're male or female or how you present, you have to grow up that divine feminine within you. That divine feminine within you is the nurturer, right? It is your intuition, right? It is the way we calm things, the way we have strength is really through that innate strength of women. The strength card, right? The number 8 card. Oh, I was like, oh, it's right here. It's not. The number 8 card in the um major arcana of the tarot is strength, and it has a woman on it, right? And this isn't like bashing men at all. I have a twin brother whom I love very, 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 very much. And so I've always been around men. I've always been around dudes, bros, whatever. It's kind of a tomboy myself. So being in that, what was once like masculine energies, not weird to me at all. And so I appreciate that masculine and how it moves us and it gives us that momentum to keep going. But it is such an intricate dance that I had to grow that masculine side up within me, right? Because I was taught, well, there should be a man taking care of you. There should be a man doing this. There should be a man providing. There should be. So every time I was doing that and I was like, oh, fuck, what the fuck do we need men for? I was telling that to my other side, my other self. And so half of me was like, what are you doing? Like, what do you mean? So I had to learn to grow up that masculine side of me. So it would be equal to my feminine side, right? So now I'm firing on all cylinders. Now I'm showing up more authentically. Now I know my boundaries because I'm like, we ain't gonna do that. And then when I say we, I mean that is the royal we, right? All of us. Um, and so you guys challenge yourselves to see when you're like, ugh, women, right? Because when you're saying that, you're saying it to yourself. And we want to grow that part up. And it might not be easy at first because, I had all the same fucking thoughts about men. Um, and I'm sure I had those thoughts about women too, but once I became aware of it, that's when that new conversation started, right? That's how I was able to bring in a different sense of stability, a different sense of time, right? Those different boundaries, all those things that Saturn represents, where Saturn had that conversation with Mercury in Pisces. And if we go to that higher Pisces, it will let those old energies end to bring in the new way, right? Um, to get us to Aries season. And again, Mercury rules Gemini, Mercury rules Virgo. So everything is, I always see everything working together. All right, 3 cards, Queen of Wands, beautiful. Queen of Wands, she is fire, she is passion, she is desire, she knows who she is. If you want to talk about self-esteem, that's the Queen of Wands. And she has that little black cat with her, which represents her quote unquote shadow side. And she does not give a shit. Okay. The Queen of Wands knows who she is. She's always got that cat with her because if people were like, hey, you were blah, blah, blah. She's like, yeah, I was. So, okay. Use this Queen of Wands and see, she holds that sunflower. And it's an homage to the King of Wands because she knows she's whole. When she's with her king, right? But it's with her. It's not, she knows she's whole, she's with her king because she listens to her divine masculine self. That's what I'm saying. So this is the Queen of Wands. So it's telling you guys, rev up that feminine side of you. Be confident in that feminine side. Be confident in the side that nurtures and be confident in the side that listens. Be confident in those gut feelings. That's her. That's that feminine side. Be confident in your intuition. Be confident being like, I don't think so. Why not? Because I just don't think so, right? Be confident in that. Be confident when you're singing karaoke. Be confident when you're bringing the party, right? She knows how to work a room because she listens to her gut, right? It tells her, okay, you need to do this, you need that. Okay, that's what she does. Because then we have this 5 of Wands, also more Wands energy, right? And the 5 of Wands comes in, and the 5 of Wands usually talks about competition, right? But how I read the 5 of Wands, it's just that people want to get noticed. So you have this Queen of Wands. And so before we would say in toxic femininity, we've got to get noticed. We have to, show up. We've got to fight, you know, um, in order to be seen. Yeah, in order to be seen. And that's not what's happening anymore. We can just show up. We can all wear different clothes. Um, we can know who we are and we can just show up and we can say, this is who I am and I believe in myself. And in this age of Aquarius, there is enough room for everyone to show up authentically. And when we start doing that, that's when the change comes in. Two of Pentacles is change, right? We have the infinity symbol, right? There's only three cards in the tarot that's got the infinity symbol, and this is it. And I always read that Two of Pentacles is change. Pentacles is earth, right? And so Mercury rules Virgo. So bring in this change because on the bottom is the devil. And the devil's just the illusion that nothing ever changes. Things always change. Okay. The illusion that, okay, we have to be chained to one another, right? The lovers is freedom. The devil is saying you can be you can show up however you want. You can grow up your feminine and masculine side, and it's not going to be in a codependent way. Okay. The devil is just the illusion. See through the illusion, right? Lower Pisces, the illusion. That's this guy. Higher Pisces with the sun, Saturn, and Mercury. That's change. And this is what we're changing from. We're changing out of this, right? We're changing out of toxic femininity. We're changing into the divine feminine who knows who she is, who understands that she has to have that divine masculine energy within her in order to get things done because we have to fire on all cylinders. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. So happy February 28th. Happy leap year tomorrow. It's not disappointing. It's not disappointing at all. So I will see you guys, if not sooner, I will see you guys for the dark moon in Pisces, which I believe is on the 9th. Of course, if you guys have any questions, please reach out, comment below. Instagram, Independent Street Tarot, Seasons Ritual, same with the websites. Until then, have a good night and do your civic duty.